Anyone else always burn their tongue on pizza or pizza related products when you microwave it? My kid had made some pizza rolls the other night. I thought I'd be slick and steal one, and now my tongue is burned. Anyways, pizza rolls are definitely not what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the can of worms that I opened with my middle son, and how I remember my mom always telling me, one day I hope you have a son just like you, so you know what you put me through. Well, I got him, and I kind of opened a can of worms, but it's not necessarily the worst thing. So what I'm talking about is, the other day I made a video, I think it was yesterday, I posted a video about catching critters outside with your boys. We have this little pool in front of the house that the dog and my youngest play in, and there's been some frogs in there, so I encouraged my middle son to catch them and build some terrariums and go around the property and try to find other things. And they started catching geckos and snakes, and now he has a whole collection of things. And but he has the same obsessive personality that I have, and now he won't stop. And yesterday I was like, we need to get you some actual terrariums to put them in, or else they're just gonna die sitting in these old Tupperwares and recycled watermelon, or not watermelon, Jesus, Walmart, those puff balls. We had a container of those that we put some of the critters in. So I found a lady on OfferUp who had 3 cages, 3 terrariums, 20 gallon. Yeah, what did she have? 20 gallon. I think it was a 10 gallon, a 20 gallon, and a 40 gallon for $100. I think $110 I gave her. Anyways, so last night I told my wife, I'm like, hey, we should go pick these up for him. It's been keeping him occupied all day. He hasn't turned his video games on in the last 2 or 3 days. All day he's out in the yard looking for bugs to feed him, or trying to catch new things, or rearranging the cages, finding new rocks and finding new sticks. And it's good for him. Or going online and like researching, what kind of snake this is, what kind of habitat do they live in, what do they eat, all that kind of stuff. So it's good. He's homeschooled, so it's part of homeschool learning, science, biology. He's learning, and it's forcing him to learn more about I guess about the wildlife around our house, which is pretty interesting. So I tell my wife, I'm like, hey, let's go get these cages. We'll encourage it. So we drive down. We live about an hour and some change from San Antonio, so it's a drive to go down there and pick these things up. And of course, like everything, nothing goes smoothly. We decided to stop at a pet store to get some crickets to feed all these little critters. Pet store, like always, has some young teenagers there that are in no hurry to help you out. And we're supposed to meet this lady at 7 o'clock, and it's like 6:45. The truck gas light comes on, so we need gas soon. And I'm getting frustrated. It doesn't take a lot to get me frustrated. For one, I hate being late. One of my biggest pet peeves are people that are late, and I hate, if I tell somebody I'm going to do something, I'm going to be there at a certain time, I'm going to be there 10-15 minutes early. So I'm getting irritated because we're going to end up being late to meet this lady, and she messages me while we're in the store and says, I'm about 17 minutes out. I'm like, we still got to stop and get gas. And of course, we're only a couple of miles from where we plan on meeting this lady, where the pet store is. I'm like, there's got to be a gas station. We're by a bunch of businesses, pet stores and banks and stuff. There'll be a gas station. So of course we don't find a gas station. And I'm like, whatever, let's just go meet her at the place we told her is a parking lot of a of a grocery store. And I was like, let's just go meet her there and then we'll go get gas afterward. And she's like, hey, I'm here. I'm in, you know, a black truck. And we can't find her. We're looking everywhere. I'm like, I cannot find you. Mind you, it's not over a phone call. This is just through messages, through OfferUp. So I'm getting frustrated. I'm like, is there more than one of these stores around here? And my wife's like, no, this is the only one down here. Come to find out there's 3 in that same area and she's at a different one. So now I'm getting even more frustrated. So we end up leaving, or I end up going, I'm like, we got to go get gas. We're like 10 miles till empty. I'm going to go get gas. And she's leaving the one she's at. She's about 15 minutes from the one we're at. I'm just going to meet you there. So we go and get gas. And anyways, story's kind of irrelevant, but I eventually get frustrated. I'm like, tell my son, I'm like, you better appreciate this. You know, I'm going out of my way. I'm getting all irritated and driving an hour to go pick up these terrariums for the stupid frogs that you've been catching around the house. So I'm getting irritated. And my wife reminds me, she's like, your mom did it for you. And that was more of the point I wanted to make with this video is we're always so quick to not encourage these kinds of things. Because now, like I said, he's become obsessed. And now he's like, Dad, I want a corn snake. And when I was a kid, I made this mistake. I told him when I was a kid, I had a tokay gecko. It's a little gecko and they bark when they're mad. They go, rah, 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 and they bark and they jump and they snap at you. And I had one when I was a kid, and I told him a story about one day my tokay gecko had gotten out of the cage. I wasn't home back when we were kids. We were outside playing all day till the sun went down, street lights came on. So, and we didn't have cell phones, so my mom couldn't message me and say, hey, your gecko's out. So my mom's saying she's sitting on the couch and she hears this funny noise. She hears this funny noise in the hallway, goes in the hallway, and our 2 cats have this gecko pinned down. And this gecko's barking and jumping at him and snapping at him. She puts a bowl over the top of it until I get home to address it. So now he wants a tokay gecko on top of a corn snake, on top of these toads we have. And he is just relentless, bugging me. Dad, what about this? Dad, what about that? Dad, should I wake him up and feed him? I'm like, no, just leave him alone. They just need to be left alone. Let him hang out in the cage. Dad, I caught these bugs. Dad, what about this stick? Dad, what about, he just on and on and on and on, wants to go to the pet store. And I was the exact same way. You know, a lot of people growing up used to think I was spoiled. And I was spoiled, but not because my mom just bought me whatever I asked for. I was spoiled because I was relentless, because I wouldn't shut up. I wouldn't stop. I would do everything I could. I would pull whatever strings. I would offer to do whatever chore. I would just bug and antagonize my mom until she gave in. In fact, hold on. I gotta see if my dog's around. Tucker, get over here. Tucker boy. In fact, when I got, in order to get my first dirt bike, I'm old enough to where Mom used to write notes to Dad on the mirror with lipstick. So what did I do? I, every morning, got up and would put dirt bike on the mirror, or I would get little sticky notes and put it by her coffee pot, dirt bike. I bugged her relentlessly to get my first dirt bike. And I get why she didn't want, I mean, my dad didn't ride dirt bikes. My mom didn't know anything about dirt bikes. They don't know, how to maintain them. I don't even know if we had even a truck at the time to take me places, but we lived a couple of miles from the hills, and I'm like, I can just ride it on the street to the hills and go dirt bike riding, which is not something you let a teenager or a young kid do. But I mean, my kid and his friends, that's what they do out here. They ride around the neighborhood and they go to each other's houses and ride around the properties. I mean, you could see the, forest behind me. But we live in a rural area. I lived in the suburbs of Southern California. So I was riding through the burbs up to the hills to go riding. Anyways, I bugged my mom relentlessly until she finally bought me a damn dirt bike till I shut up. And it was good for me. I loved riding dirt bikes. I ended up, sticking with riding dirt bikes from the time I was like, shit. I think she bought that bike for me. I was 11, 12 years old. And I rode up until moving to Texas. Always go out with my friends on the weekends. It was a hobby that I really enjoyed, and I probably would have never got into it had my mom not bought me that bike. And really what I wanted this video to be out was just encouraging, your kids, when they come and they say, when they're bugging you about something, you just shy them away because it's something you don't want to deal with, or something you don't want to do, or something you don't have an interest in, even down to video games. I've never been a gamer. I'm not into video games. I don't play video games. But there's times where, it's raining outside, or it's a cold day or a hot day, and we're all cooped up in the house, and we'll throw on the Nintendo and play some Super Mario or Mario Kart or something. I don't get into the Call of Duty type games and stuff with him, but I definitely don't encourage it just because I want him to go outside and do more things. But even down to like, hey dad, come outside and play catch with me, or hey dad, one of the neighbor kids really wanted to get into soccer, and his parents at one point didn't want to deal with taking him to games and practices and all that stuff. And I would take him, my son, and a couple of the other kids and go to the soccer field and go play soccer with him for a few hours. And then eventually that kid's parents got him into soccer, and he's a great soccer player. He's still playing, which is awesome. I think, like most parents, it's just, I don't know, a lot of parents don't want to give up their time. They don't want to have to deal with soccer practice or any kind of sports practices after work, or, their Saturdays taken up with sports all day. And, that's why so many of our kids go down these rabbit holes on video games and get sucked into this internet life, is because people don't want to do things with their kids anymore and encourage things. So basically what I'm getting at is the last couple of days now I've been on this mission with these terrariums, and don't get me wrong, this is something I enjoyed doing as a kid and even as an adult. I built a really elaborate cage for my chameleon like 5-6 years ago. It wasn't even that long ago, maybe a little bit longer, 8 years ago. I think there's some construction workers working on my neighbor's house. It's like back in the forest, so I can't see anything, but I could hear people talking. Anyways, yeah, I built this really elaborate cage for a chameleon I had, some years ago, actually, like right after I got sober. So yeah, it was quite a while ago. Right after I got sober, I was like, yeah, give me a little hobby, something to do. I built a really elaborate saltwater tank. So it's fun. I'm having a good time and doing it with him, but he is just relentless. And you got your wish, Mom. I got the kid that was just like me. And I see a lot of me in him. And my parents did as good of a job as they could do. I got really into skateboarding, and they encouraged that. They were always buying me new skateboards and new shoes, and my dad was helping me build skate ramps and stuff. We lived across the street from this cul-de-sac, and I had a whole skate park in the cul-de-sac of stuff that I built in the garage. And a lot of it, when I was younger, is stuff my dad helped me build or took me to go get materials to build, and they encouraged it. The one thing I guess they weren't aware of is the whole skate scene back when I was a kid was just a bunch of potheads and troublemakers breaking into schools and smoking pot. But they couldn't have known that. I guess they could have. And that's one thing about, growing up the way I did, is I'm aware of these kinds of things. My son's like, gets really into skateboarding. He's like, hey dad, me and my friends are gonna go skate around town and go find some staircases on. Nah, I know what you guys are really gonna get into, because I was there. I was that kid. Actually, I just saw a funny meme that said, no, never mind. I don't want to tell it. But yeah, so try to encourage it. Your kids, find a hobby or something that's constructive. you know, like, you know, building terrariums, or, you know, they want to get a fish tank, or, you know, a pet. You know, I had pet rats when I was a kid. My mom, I bugged her and bugged her and bugged her for these rats, and she's like, I am not having rats in my house. This wind is probably making this audio terrible. Every time the wind picks up as soon as I try to film one of these. I'm probably gonna cut this a little short, or cut it off soon. Anyways, pet rats. My mom was like, yo, I'm not having rats in my house. And I finally convinced her, like I always did, to get rats. And she's like, well, your sister wants one too. So we ended up with 2 pet rats who my mom loved. She loved the rats. They were awesome. They're great pets. They're great, great, great pets. You know, and part of this is supposed to teach your kids some responsibility. You got to take care of them, or you got to do chores to earn money for the food or the bedding or whatever it is. So yeah, so I'm leaning into it with him, you know, I'm encouraging it, but he is obsessed. He will not stop and will not shut up about it. Every 10 minutes, it's, Dad, what about this? Dad, what about that? And I find myself getting frustrated and just like, I wish I didn't even start this. But it's better than him playing video games. So I'm gonna encourage it. He's been outside, like I said, doing stuff in the yard, digging up everything, trying to build these habitats and find bugs and stuff. And he's been online researching and reading how to take care of these things. So I think it's good. And people that have this super obsessive personality, call it ADHD or whatever it is, a lot of them eventually find something that just clicks and they run with it and they become super successful with it. Not saying he's going to be like some reptile master, but there is going to be something in his life. And like with me, it was building things with my hands. You know, I enjoyed building things with my hands. It started off building skate ramps, and then I eventually got into, you know, I got old enough to get my driver's license and got a truck, and I was all into off-roading from dirt bike riding. So I got into off-roading, and then eventually led into a career of building off-road stuff, being a fabricator. So I was doing a hobby that I loved and a job that I loved, a craft that I loved. And I built a career out of it. And it was something I was obsessed with, and I was good at it, really good at it. And yeah, you just need to recognize it and not look at it as they're just being annoying, or, you know, hey, shut up, go in your room and play video games. Got to kind of lean into it a little bit. So now I'm on a mission. Now we got to go find a reptile store and go buy a tokay gecko and a rat snake and all kinds of different critters. So we're on this mission. Hopefully Chewy has a cricket delivery service like they do for our dogs, because we don't live anywhere near pet stores that have crickets, and I'm not driving an hour each way to go and pick up crickets a couple times a week or once a week, whatever it is. I don't know. I just thought I'd share that. Maybe maybe you have a kid that's kind of the same way, and you're not leaning into it, or you're not encouraging it, and you should definitely encourage it. And even if it's not something you're into, get into it for them. You know, they're only young and they only want to hang with you for so long. And I have a 20-year-old son, so I know when that point comes, they don't really want to hang with dad as much, or they don't want to hang with their parents as much. They want to hang with their friends, and then eventually girls, and then eventually they're out of the house. And you're like, damn, should have built some more reptile cages with them, or went out to the soccer field with them. It's not always about you. And it's something it's took me a while to learn. Like I said, I got a 20-year-old who's already out of the house, and I see it now. All right, till next time.